Officers of Reddit, when has an excusable action turned into a moment of well, now I gotta arrest you? I was at a house party. It was getting a bit out of control and someone had called the cops on it. I'm from the UK and cops going to house parties seems way rarer than in America, at least from what I've seen in media. This was the only time I've ever seen them show up, and they didn't even go in the house. They waited outside for the owner to come and ask them to start removing people. So the guy throwing the party turns the music off and says for people to leave. Some people leave, some just start talking quietly, still buzzed on whatever. I was there with 2 friends and we decided frick it, party's dead and we are hungry, let's leave. So we go out the front door, and my one mate, who was hammered, goes over to one of the officers, and I'm like oh shit what is he doing? He starts trying to chat shit with the officer, the guy's having none of it, and says to leave, clearly trying to just do his job and disperse the party. Next thing I see is my mate put his arm around the cop and try and take a freaking selfie. Crossed a line there, officer grabs his arm, puts it behind his back, and in a few seconds has my friend in the back of the car. Me and my other mate, up until this point we are laughing at our idiot, suddenly are like, do we try and save him? Sheepishly we make our way over as well, start apologizing saying he's a moron, had too much, we'll take him home and put him to bed. At first the officer doesn't even look at us, says he needs to cool off in a cell, but then relents and is like fine. Take him straight home, and I don't want to see any of you again tonight. Fantastic. So we get him out of the back, put our arms on him, and steer him off back towards our place. Dumbus then remembers we were gonna get food. Takeaway places being back past the party, the way we'd came. We literally had to hold this guy back and say we'd give him some oven chips so he wouldn't run off and get himself arrested again. Best thing about it? Dude couldn't remember nearly being arrested, thought we were making it up, didn't thank us until a mutual friend from the party sent us some pics of him in the back of the car. This was recently. Had a young guy, basically a teenager, chasing a neighbor around with a shovel. The suspect denied that he was, but admitted to confronting the neighbor because he was allegedly making crude comments about some of his girlfriends. Let him off with an intox public ticket and a warning. Less than 30 minutes after leaving we get called back by the neighbor, who said he could hear the kid yelling and screaming again. Me and my partner show up and walk up to his house just in time to see him charging his roommate with a huge kitchen knife. We kicked in the door and the kid decided to drop the knife immediately, thank God. He was arrested and charged with assault with a weapon and some other stuff, and given conditions not to return to his house. Keep shaking my head at this one. I saw some drunk dumbus on Live PD get the cops called on him at a hotel for breaking the window or something. The owner just wanted him to leave. He straight up tells the cops he has warrants, and they're like we don't care about any of that, just leave the premises and go about your night. But you just would not leave, so the cops had to arrest him. Like bro, you were getting an unbelievable break not being charged with anything or taken to jail and still wanted to argue and stay there. An ex-roommate of mine decided to stop off in a town she wasn't familiar with on her way home from work to smoke some pot with some friends she'd met recently. After staying just long enough to smoke a bunch, she drove down the road, not paying attention, and swerved right in front of a cop. I've since visited this town, and it very much has a vibe of pulls you over high, do you need directions? I'd bet that's what the cop was thinking when he pulled her over. She managed to escalate this to refusing to take a breathalyzer, to yelling at the cop for harassing her, to pinching the guy when he cuffed her. I was on a lease with this person and didn't want to be responsible for her part of the rent, so I drove out and bailed her out after midnight on a weekday so that she could go to work the next day. Bail, of course, started off as $40 for a traffic violation and escalated to several hundred when it turned out she had technically assaulted an officer, and the next day she goes to work with a bad attitude, gets fired, and goes back to the same town and gets pulled over again. Not a cop, but saw a guy get escorted off a bus for playing his music device too loudly and I guess having his feet up on a seat. Wouldn't respond to the driver. When the police had him off of the bus, he went with them calmly. There were 3 cops. They were talking to him, and suddenly he takes a swing at one of them. That was one fast takedown. Not Leo, but have a great story. Officer is off duty and taking wife to get ice cream. Walks up to window, kid sees guy and recognizes him as a cop. Shit, I knew you guys would show up at some point. Cop had no idea what kid was taking about, but played along. You really should have known. Will this go easy? What can you tell me? The more you're honest, the better it could be for you. Kid proceeds to spill guts about being a driver for a B&E that happened recently. Cop calls in for a cruiser, arrests the kid, and never got his ice cream. Added bonus, some people think that, after being arrested that, if you aren't read your Miranda rights, that they can't use anything you say. Miranda only applies to questioning after arrest. If you mouth off in the backseat after being arrested, but the cop never asks you anything, everything you say can be used as evidence. Noise complaint call from a house, which 99% of the time is a warning. Loud guy is super drunk and says my music couldn't have been that bad, I just drove home. Person who made the complaint says, yeah, he just got home and turned on the loud music. I saw him drive up. Guilty verdict for second offense DUI at the jury trial for the loud guy. He was super confused when I started doing a field sobriety test on a noise complaint call. Edit, for everyone asking, he couldn't use the I just got home and drank defense because he was over a .20 back and had not been home long enough to get that drunk. The body can only metabolize alcohol into the bloodstream so quickly. We have court experts that have formulas that come and testify based on the times and tests to that. At trial he didn't even bring that up with his fancy pair lawyer as a defense. They said he lied to me about driving and tried to say the witness was wrong and someone else was driving. The jury didn't believe his lies. #DONT drink and drive when the alibi is the confession. I was a park ranger and we used to have a bunch of kids who liked to sit on a hill and smoke weed. Now they walked in and out and were just goofy kids and basically behaved, so I left them be until Travis came along. Travis had a joint in his hand as I walked up. He was told to toss it in the drain. Travis takes a big ol' hit and exhaled in my face. I still let it go, but began to simmer. He pinches the cherry and tries to pocket the joint. That was it. Travis gets clipped. Dumbus had an ounce in his sock and several blunts in his pocket. Stupid. Honestly, I'm impressed by your patience here. I don't get the people who argue with the cops. That almost never works out in their favor. And why turn a traffic stop into a night in jail? Don't they have better shit to do than sit in jail for a night? I always go the opposite route. 2 examples. Last summer, driving across several states on the way to the beach. I was speeding 25 over. Got pulled over. Cop expected me to argue and bullshit him. Instead, I said you got me fair and square. I'm just trying to get the family to the beach. No excuses. He came back and said he knocked it down to 9 miles per hour over and to slow it down. The beach would still be there. Saved me hundreds of dollars and points on my license. He also complimented me on my truck and we talked sports for a few minimum. It may have helped that I have military veteran plates. I dunno. In my state, if they run your plates and you have a concealed carry license, the cops are notified before they approach the vehicle. So, because I don't want to make them any more freaked out, I always turn off the engine, put the dome light on, window down, have my license and insurance ready, and have my hands easily visible. They always immediately ask if I have a weapon in the vehicle, and I don't, so I say no. They ask why I do all of those things, and I say, so they know what's up, and to make things easy for the both of us. They always seem to appreciate that, and usually ask a few questions, and send me on my way. Do I have to do any of that crap? No. Does it make things easier for everyone, and get us both on our way faster? Yes. Not an officer, but a guy I used to work with was a real dickhead, and amongst many other things, once left me stranded at a job site almost 2 hours from home with no way to get back. One night he got pulled over for speeding well over the limit. Cops were going to let him go with just a fine, no points, but he decides to argue and push the point. So the cops search his vehicle and find cocaine. Gets arrested, car impounded. He makes bail and promptly leaves the country to go to his home country. Guy wasn't a US citizen and now can't come back to the States ever again, or he'll be re-arrested and charged with the drug offenses, the speeding charge, and skipping bail. Karma's a bitch, doofus. I'm no Leo. This is one such incident where we rolled been. So I was home for the summer after my freshman year and met up with my cousin and then met 3 of his other friends. We were all 18 plus other than my cousin who was 17 on record due to his dad. A friend of his had a SUV, and after watching a movie we decided to get some beers. This was 3 to 4 hours after the closing time of the alcohol shops. Somehow the city has places where they sell from inside the shutters, cash only, and a little extra since it's illegal. We obtain a few beers and breezes. The guy driving stated that he would be getting high and not drunk, so we decided to get onto the interstate highway to get drunk. National highway. While we are on our way toward the highway from inside the city, cops set up a checkpost, bomb threats maybe, and asked to check the DL and the luggage compartment of the SUV. My cousin quickly took the beers and pushed them under the seat without any suspicion as soon as we saw the checkpost. So everyone's partly freaking out, but we hid it well to not raise any suspicions. There's always that one a-hole. The guy sitting in the passenger seat in the front freaks the frick out. Before the police even asks questions, he's partly screaming to himself that he'll call his mom and tell her everything, and then her that it was a spur of the moment thing. Basically, we got high and drunk later on, but that was the last I saw of that guy. Never hanging with him again. Join my Discord server to get absolutely nothing. Link in description.